Good afternoon, Kitchissippi. It is Friday, March the 14th. This is a video version of the 428th Kitchissippi Weekly Ward Newsletter. There's lots more information about all the topics we'll discuss in the weekly email newsletter, to which you can subscribe at kitchissippiward.ca. A bit of a long one this week. I'll dive right in. First, I do want to address the city's communications and some of the media around the pivot away from sprung structures as one of the approaches that had been proposed by the city to house the many newcomers who are coming to our city. As part of those communications, there has been some mention of the 250 Lanark site. I just want to reiterate what I said a couple of weeks ago in the newsletter, which is the third party that was set to purchase the 250 Lanark site from the federal government has chosen not to move ahead with that acquisition. So the long-term future of the site is up in the air. Right now, what it does mean is that the city has the opportunity to pursue an extension of the temporary use of that site as overnight shelter, but the long-term future of that site is still very much in the air and still very much subject to whatever the federal government decides it wants to do with that property. In the newsletter, I do have pop-up office hours that are coming up on March the 18th. Those are going to be from 9 until 11 a.m. at the Morning Owl. That's just on Armstrong. Pop-ups are an opportunity to come by anytime during those hours, chat with me one-on-one without appointment about whatever is on your mind. I mentioned this week, I didn't have a video last week. The Matthew Perry Foundation has announced that it is opening a Matthew Perry House on the grounds of the Royal Hospital. I believe that is, it's 170 units or something like that of supportive housing with wraparound supports for people who are struggling with addictions. This is amazing news. This is exactly the kind of housing that we need a lot more of in Ottawa as we struggle with the opioid crisis. So they have an open house that is coming up this March the 20th. It will be on the campus of the Royal. I've got more details about that open house in the newsletter, but I am really gratified to see the very positive reception that this has been receiving citywide. The Committee of Adjustment has been busy. On March the 19th, and I know I've said these a few times, at 60 Hampton, it's back on the agenda. It has a revised list of variances for a proposed severance and construction of a long semi. City staff report is now online. They have expressed concerns about the introduction of front-facing garages. At 196 Clare, the owners are seeking a reduced side yard setback, increased building height to construct a semi. City staff have requested an adjournment on that one, since the owner would need additional variances beyond what they've applied for to allow for the front-facing garage. And at 464 Churchill, the owner is looking to build 2 3-story low-rise apartment buildings with 8 units each. They're seeking some variances. At the property at 462 Churchill that they also own, they're looking at subdividing the property into 2 parcels to create 2 lots for a future development. Staff have expressed no concerns with the variances or the severance. They have made note that a couple of the trees that are on site, I believe they're the ones that are at the very south edge of the property, are jointly owned with the abutting landowner, and have taken pains to note that without that adjoining landowner's permission to remove those trees, they won't be in a position to extend a tree permit. On April the 2nd, we have a couple of properties in our ward that are on the agenda. At 317 West Hill, the owner is seeking to subdivide the property to establish separate ownerships for each half of the semi that is currently under construction. And at 100 Hamilton, the owner is seeking variances on lot width, lot area, and interior side yard setbacks in order to construct an 8-unit low-rise apartment building. And we also now have the decisions from the March 5th meeting of the Committee of Adjustment. The application at 30 Railway, some variances there were granted, as were the severances at 401 Golden. This is an interesting file for me. At 388 Richmond, where McDonald's is proposing to build a restaurant, they applied to be allowed to have no parking with that. I am supportive of that application, but it was one of the first that goes through the city's new rules that delegates authority for minor rezonings, that's a defined category, to staff. Staff have exercised their delegated authority to approve that. That was subject to my concurrence, which I provided. Otherwise, I could have forced that to a planning committee vote. This process is the first time I've been through it, and I just want to say I'm feeling a lot more comfort about the new process now. Throughout the process, I was kept looped in. I had lots of notice as to when my concurrence was required. I had lots of opportunity to do my own notifications to the community, contemplate the feedback that was coming into my office. So that new minor rezoning process, if future ones work like this one did, I am feeling quite comfortable with. The city is going to be hosting an open house to take a look at the intersection improvements and the new multi-use path that is going to snake in behind the Golden Manor just on the east side to connect the Golden Richmond intersection with Dominion, in order to get traffic or bike traffic more safely through to the spine infrastructure that is east-west along that corridor. There are also a number of intersection improvements that I'm looking forward to seeing done. The city is hosting an open format open house, so no presentation. Drop in when you can on April the 3rd from 6:30 to 8:30 at the Churchill Senior Center. The NCC has announced its Bike Days hours. This year, those will be curtailed from 8 a.m. until noon on Saturdays and Sundays, as well as holiday Mondays. That was a decision that the NCC chose to make. I know many of you were seeking for me to advocate on behalf of doing that. I didn't, but I did relay the community's concerns over a couple of occasions, and they have chosen to curtail those hours in order to try to address some of the traffic considerations in the immediate area as that got fairly gummed up on the weekends. The Scott and Bayswater properties are going to be on, there are two big properties that are coming up for rezonings at our committee, the Planning and Housing Committee meeting on March the 19th. The first one is a recommended approval of the 16-story infill tower at the corner of Somerset and Bayswater. There's also a 6-story just to the west of that has been proposed as well. Those are recommended for approval. I anticipate fairly easy approval of those. The more interesting one is the 1950 Scott property that is at the corner of Clifton and Scott. The owner had applied for a number of changes to what they were originally approved for, including, I think, a higher podium height, more stories in the building without actually increasing the height, and that would all result in more units. The thing that I think residents were mostly interested in was the developer's request to reduce the amount of community benefits they owe. Since the original application was made, the benefits regime in Ontario has changed considerably, and the developer was on the hook for fewer developer dollars. My thanks go to staff who were able to preserve really most of the monetary value of those benefits. We'll see a slightly reduced contribution to the Ward Affordable Housing Fund that goes from $750,000 to $450,000. But the builder is now on the hook to build a refrigerated rink at Lions Park. The same owner owns the Granite Club. We've been talking since the beginning of that proposal about putting in a refrigerated rink in Lions Park, which would be obviously programmable space during the summer, something that I think is really needed in Westboro. City staff have managed to negotiate a commitment to either build that or to put a $1.1 million contribution from this development into that refrigerated rink project. Between community benefits from the Granite Club, cash in lieu of parking, this commitment, I am feeling very confident that sometime in the next few years there will be a refrigerated rink at Lions Park, something that has been a preoccupation of mine. In the neighborhood, there is a benefit concert for Cornerstone, last minute notice, happening on Saturday, March the 15th at 4 p.m. It's going to feature Peggy Jenkins doing some soft rock, pop ballads, and sing-along. It's a free will offering with any funds raised going to Cornerstone Housing for Women. And then I've got early notice of the Spring Fling Fiber Art Show. It's a fiber art show, so wool and yarn and silk, wool, felt, all that good stuff. That That's going to be held on Friday, April the 25th and Saturday, April the 26th from 10 a.m. until 4 p.m. at Kitchissippi United, which is just off of Island Park Drive. So if fiber art is something you're interested in, great show coming up in later April. Check the newsletter for the details. And Connaught Public School has got its chocolate sale coming up. Why wait for Easter chocolate to go on sale in the grocery store when you can support community and a Canadian company right now? Connaught has its chocolate fundraising sale on. I've got all the details in the newsletter. City Hall is ramping back up now after we took a bit of a March break. The Transit Committee is going to meet on March the 17th with an agenda that includes all the usual rail, bus, para updates. There's going to be a report on the fare enforcement initiative, so the fare blitz, as well as an update on the Stage 2 light rail project. See the agenda in the newsletter. The Environment and Climate Change Committee is going to be meeting on March the 18th with, among other items, a presentation on the Green Fleet strategy, as well as a third-party agreement on designing and building the Leggett Drive local water main. And Councillor King has a great motion on the table that will be debated to require the city to go and take a look at how it can reduce the amount of salt that it uses on the streets. I'm looking around. We use a lot of streets. It's not good for the infrastructure. It's not good for the river. So Councillor King has got a motion requiring the city to take a closer look at that. And then at the Planning and Housing Committee meeting on March the 19th, besides the Bayswater and Somerset and the 1950 Scott developments, there is also going to be some rezonings on Halton Terrace and at Cope Dagenham. You can find the full agenda in the newsletter. Kitchissippi, I hope those of you who had an opportunity to take a bit of a March break enjoyed that. The sun is starting to melt the snow nice and quickly. All that snow which has so vexed us is going to disappear soon. I hope you have a great week, and thank you for watching.